Happy Kansas Day, everyone. Yes, it's Kansas Day. I'm Mrs. Smoke. I am dialing in today from Wichita, and we have a guest person that's going to pop in here, maybe here in just a moment. But a couple of quick notes. Teachers and students, you might look for the Q&A over on the right-hand side of the screen. That is where you can post questions that I will hand over to our guest speaker, and they can respond to the questions as we go along. I'll also use this space it will be moderated. So anything that comes in, I'm going to see it first before it is published. So it's a safe place for your students to go ahead and post questions. For teachers, you can post your own question and I'll share it with our guest speaker. Secondly, teachers, if you want to update the Kansas Day website, I've just posted listening guides for the day. We were just making a couple of changes, but these will allow students to take notes through the day if you would like for them to see that. But without further ado, happy Kansas Day and our guest speaker. Hey, Julie, where are you?
Hey, everyone.
Julie, good to see you.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Kansas Day.
Happy Kansas Day, Julie, and tell us where you're dialing in from.
Yes, I am here in a secret underground bunker here in Lawrence, Kansas. And we're gonna learn a little bit more about our building in just a second.
An underground bunker. Describe what that means.
So I'm actually, you guys see what do you guys see behind me? All these boxes? Yeah, I've got lots and lots of boxes. So maybe you guys can make some inferences about where I could be. What room? Does it have a special name? We're going to talk about that.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to hand it over to you. Students, if you're ready, go ahead and type in the chat and like, good morning, and dial in where you're from so we can tell Julie which classes are joining us. And Julie, I'm handing it over to you.
Great. Thank you. All right. So as I said, my name is Julie, and I am the educator in a really cool building in Lawrence, Kansas that looks like this. And by looking at our building as this picture here, do you guys have any inferences on who our building is named after? Got some guesses? Maybe you guys can find some clues in this picture. And if you were thinking somebody named Robert J. Dole, you are correct. So we're called the Dole Institute of Politics. And we are named after Senator Bob Dole, who represented us, the people of Kansas, in our United States Congress for over 35 years. And that is the branch, the Congress is the legislative branch of government that helps make our laws. And here at the Dole Institute, we want to educate and teach people about our government. So here's the word government. Government is just a group of people who make the rules. And here in the United States, we live in a democracy. And different countries around the world have different styles of government. But here in the US, we live in a democracy. And so we help decide how our countries run by voting in elections. But I wonder who votes? The people, the citizens. And the citizens elect other people to represent us. So we elect our representatives in our city, in our county, in our state, and in our federal government. So the entire United States. And our friend Senator Bob Dole served in the legislative branch of government, which helped make our laws. And he also ran for president of the United States, which is pretty cool. And so here at the Dole Institute, there's a picture of our museum. So you are welcome to come visit me here in Lawrence. Our museum is open 6 days a week. We're always free, so come on over. And you can learn about Senator Bob Dole's life. And we also have scavenger hunts, so you can learn a little bit more in our museum. And then we also invite speakers and guests to come and talk on a variety of subjects. Things that have happened in the past, things that are happening right now in the news. So we've had past presidents and senators and representatives and journalists and authors and researchers and ambassadors to other countries too. So that is part of the museum. And if you look in the back there, do you see something really, really big that's red, white, and blue? Yeah, because you are looking at the world's largest American flag stained glass window. Whoa. So you got to come visit me in Lawrence now. It's over 29 feet high, has over 900 pieces of stained glass in it. And if we get a little bit closer, you can see all those individual pieces. So see where the black lines are? Yeah. And then we also, on the side of the flag, you can see on the left-hand side of this picture, is 2 beams from the World Trade Center. So the Dole Institute is also a place to honor our history. And so maybe in school or maybe in the future, you're going to learn about what happened to America on September 11th, 2001. So we definitely want to honor that part of our history. And we have beams that are from the tower in New York City, World Trade Center. But now that may be a sad part of our history, but I also want to talk about why the Dole Institute has these here. So those, we actually have 2 of them, 2 World Trade Center beams, were given to Senator Bob Dole and President Bill Clinton together because they set up a scholarship fund right after 9/11. And the reason why I bring this up is Senator Bob Dole was a Republican, and President Bill Clinton is a Democrat. And do Democrats and Republicans get along all the time? Should they get along more? Yeah, they should. And that is called bipartisanship. So bi meaning 2 and partisan meaning kind of party. So bipartisanship means cooperation through compromise and finding common ground, even if from opposing political parties. And so here at the Dole Institute, we're all about bipartisanship. Senator Dole has a legacy of working together with people across the political aisle. And we can kind of break that down too, because if I like apples and you like oranges, can we still be friends? Yeah, definitely. Maybe we love kiwis together. So we definitely need to find that common ground and make some great decisions for our country together. Now, at the very beginning, I talked about where I am. All these boxes behind me, these boxes on the screen. Did you guys have any ideas? Got a lot of boxes. Inside, these are actually pieces of mail. But I am here in an archive. Archive, ARCHIVE. And an archive is kind of like a library. Do you guys go to the school library or the public library? Yeah. Yeah. So we're kind of like a library, except you can't check anything out. Everything stays in this building because we want to learn from it. And we want to invite you to come inside and take a tour and do cool stuff like we're doing today of learning about the archive. So let's think if you were to create your own archive right now in 3rd grade, or 5th grade, or 6th grade, 4th grade, all that. And if you were to collect all of your homework and your art projects and your tests and maybe some school sports trophies or ribbons, and you'd keep it all for 4th grade, and then you'd add to it in 5th grade and 6th grade and 7th grade, all the way through high school, do you think you'd have a pretty cool archive or collection of stuff after that? Yeah, so that's exactly what a lot of presidents and congressmen and senators do with their papers that go through their office. And so Senator Dole was in office for 35 years. Do you think we're going to have a lot of stuff? Oh, yeah. We're going to have tons of letters and documents and speeches and 25,000 photographs, 9,000 objects, so things that are 3D that we can touch. And so we're going to be exploring some of these Kansas items in just a few minutes. But it's important to talk about Senator Dole, especially on Kansas Day, because he is a native Kansan. He was born in Russell, Kansas, and his hometown had definitely shaped his values. Here's a picture of him a few years ago, actually at that Dole Institute, because do you see that stained glass window in the back? Pretty cool. He was right there. I've been working here a few years, almost 8.5 years now, and I was able to meet him 6 times, which I feel very grateful for, because I do have some sad news that Senator Dole did pass away just a couple years ago in December of 2021. And he almost made it to his 100th birthday because he was at the grand age of 98 when he passed away. So he had 35 years in service to our country. He was also a World War II veteran. So he had 35 years of service to our country in terms of the Congress, but obviously lifelong American and Kansan, and fought for our American values. But here he is during his World War II time, and he got hurt really, really bad in World War II, which was a long time ago. And he lost the use of his right arm in that war. And he had to learn how to do everything with his left hand at that point. So he was right-handed before his injury. And in the archives, we could see his handwriting before World War II. And then after World War II, we see that his handwriting is a little different, because he was writing with his left hand. So, students, if you are at your desk right now, if you have a piece of paper in front of you or a pencil, that's great. If you don't, that's okay, because I want you to take your finger or your pencil, and if you're using your finger, you can draw on your desk, but just your finger. Don't draw with your pencil on your desk. And try to write your name with your non-dominant hand. So if you are right-handed, I want you to try to use your left. Or if you're left-handed, try to use your right. I want you to write your name and see if that's easy or difficult. Guys, give me a few seconds to do that. Because Senator Dole had to adapt and do something a little bit different, but he could still do a lot of stuff that everybody else can do too. So instead of being a soldier anymore, or he wanted to be a doctor when he got out of the war, but he didn't have the ability to do that anymore since he lost the use of his right arm. And he held it at his side like this all the time. So he had to do everything with his left hand. So writing your name, easy, hard, kind of in the middle. Yeah. So Senator Dole definitely had to overcome that, but it didn't stop him. He continued to serve his country, although in a different way. And here he is as Congressman Dole. And does anybody have an idea on who the person he's shaking hands with is? He's also another famous Kansan. You may hear about him today also. And I think he might even be President of the United States, although a long time ago. You might have schools or parks named after him in your town. Does anybody have any ideas on who this gentleman is? We know our friend Senator Bob Dole, or at this time Representative. And this is our native Kansan, the only president from Kansas, even though Senator Dole did try really, really hard. This is President Dwight or Ike Eisenhower. Now, students, do you know anything, notice a little bit different about this photograph? It isn't black and white, so that probably gives a clue that's pretty old. But what about the men shaking hands? Looks like President Eisenhower is using his right hand. What hand is Representative Dole using? His left hand, right? So you can see his right hand at the bottom of this picture, because remember, he didn't have the ability to move it very far. So he always offered his left hand to shake. So students, if you are next to a friend or a partner, why don't you try shaking hands with your left hand? Both using your left hand. Senator Dole always remembered people who offered their left hand first. Now, it might seem a little awkward, but if you are going to meet a congressman or senator, gives a little extra knowledge if you offer your left hand, because Senator Dole didn't have that right hand ability anymore. So that was really important to him. But he learned how to do life and was very successful at it, because he even ran for president of the United States in 1996, which was before you guys. But he aspired to be president. And here we have Senator Bob Dole, and we also have Senator Elizabeth Dole. So they were married. They were kind of like DC's power couple in the 1980s. So kind of like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift today. And she also worked in our government for a really long time. And she even ran for president herself. Now, Senator Elizabeth Dole is from North Carolina. So she's not from Kansas, but we still like her. So another cool thing that Senator Bob Dole did in his career, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is a super big deal. It's the highest honor that a president can give to a citizen. So that was given from President Bill Clinton. We have a signature there. And this is hanging actually upstairs in our museum gallery. Another thing in our museum, and you can see a big copy of it behind me, is the Congressional Gold Medal, which is the highest award that Congress can give to a citizen. So let's read this coin. It says, "Son of Kansas, soldier, statesman, Bob Dole." We have a picture of him. And does anybody have a guess on what building this could be? Where's our nation's capital? Okay, Washington, D.C. Yeah. So I bet that is the United States Capitol building, because that is where our legislative branch of government meets. And Senator Dole, for most of his political career, was in the United States Senate. And on the back of this coin, you can see on the right-hand side of this picture, has a really cool quote. Now, I'm going to read out loud because I think it's really important, especially on Kansas Day, to hear where we come from, what about Kansas. It says, "For greatness lies not in what office you hold, but in how honest you are, in how you face adversity, and in your willingness to stand fast in hard places." And we have a beautiful scenery of a field with hay bales and a windmill in the background. So this is kind of saying it doesn't matter where you come from or what you do, but as long as you're honest and you take challenges head on and you stick to your roots, things are going to be okay. Now, going back to the archive, we got boxes and boxes. We got lots of paper. We also have lots of objects. And since it's Kansas Day, I wanted to show some really cool things from the archive. So behind me, I have a cart full of stuff, and I'm going to put my special white gloves on, because if we're going to handle any of these objects here in the archive, we don't want any of our fingerprints on them. Or if we have chocolate or oil or something else on our hands. We don't want to get that on there. But in the archive, we have documents and photographs and objects, and those are things that are, the objects are given to Senator Dole or presented or sent in the mail, like this one. Anybody recognize what this is? Oh, it's the Kansas State seal, right? And this is actually hand colored or hand painted by Bennington Grade School in Bennington, Kansas, the 4th grade. And we have the teacher's name listed here. And we also have all of the students that were in that class that year. And I don't think I have a specific year on this object, but that is pretty cool that, think if you were to give something to an elected official, they're probably going to keep it. And it might even end up in an archive like this. So I think it's pretty awesome that Bennington Grade School 4th graders sent this to Senator Dole. Another cool thing we have is, I really like, this is actually one of my favorite objects.
Hey, Julie, why don't we go full screen so we can see that even better?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, so we have this Kansas gold here, and it says grains and seeds of Kansas. And here in Kansas, we plant certain plant items and seeds. And this is some of the, I guess, the native seeds, or at least most popular in our area. So we got sunflower seeds and oats and hard red winter wheat. And so this was given to Senator Dole kind of as, proud of being from Kansas. We also have a lot of sunflowers. We got a lot of these pins that say Senator Bob Dole. We even got a cool piece of art. Got metal that is formed into the state of Kansas with a sunflower or maybe a windmill, depending on how you look at it. We got some cool bell buckles. This one's actually from the Kansas State Fair. Have anybody ever been there?
What I really like about that one, Julie, is all the little details. Students, I don't know if you can look real closely, but Julie, if you can hold it a little closer to the camera. Mm-hmm. There you go. Lots of really interesting things that represent farming and 4-H and just the great things about Kansas. Genius and cool product.
All right. Let's see. We also got some campaign buttons. So Senator Dole campaigned every 6 years for Senate. He also ran for president. And this is actually one of my favorites, even though it's a little informal. But it says, Bob's my boy. Let's get him elected to the Senate or president.
So Julie, if I was wanting to vote for Senator Dole, then I would need to wear that button.
Correct. Yep. Campaign buttons. We don't necessarily see them as much as we do today, but back in the 80s and 90s, everyone wore buttons on their shirt to show who they were promoting, who they were proud to vote for. We got some coins also. So this one says Kansas, and this is actually on the 125th birthday of Kansas. It says 125, and if I turn to the back of it, 125 years ago was in what year? 1986. So let's do some math. We're right now in 2024, and today is Kansas's birthday. Anybody know what year Kansas became a state? 1861. All right, let's do some math. So if it's 2024 minus 1861 is 163? Yeah, 163 years ago. So happy birthday, Kansas. Some other cool things. from the archive. I'm going to share my screen again because we have some boxes in here and we have lots of postcards. And so we can kind of see a history of Kansas in these postcards of greetings from Kansas. Oh, this one's on the 100th birthday, 1861 and 1961. Gotta put my sunflower sticker back up. But another cool thing that we have in the archive here is, have you guys ever heard of Photoshop? Yeah. Well, this was before Photoshop. Do you think there's going to be buffaloes and giant turtles hanging out in Lawrence, Kansas, in front of Allen Fieldhouse where we play basketball? Maybe not now. Or giant corn at a county fair? That's pretty big corn. So these postcards are called Tall Tales postcards. And if you could imagine when people were using early photographs, they're like, this was an early version of Photoshop. Let's see what I can do with it. Like getting a load of good Kansas apples in 1905 or 1903. Or even, do you guys have a lot of grasshoppers where you live? What if they grew giant and they were like a Kansas airship? Or down on the farm, got to work those crickets. Or a beautiful country club with dinosaurs. Isn't this crazy? This is actually my favorite one. It says, in Ottawa, Kansas, during floods, nobody but the turtles get excited. We got some giant turtles here. Looks like a giant caterpillar in the background here, too. So in archives, you can see and learn lots of cool things about our history, the history of Kansas, history of certain people, like influential Kansas natives like Senator Bob Dole. And Senator Dole is still an important leadership role model to look to, especially for Kansans. And because we want to talk about working together for the good of the people. So especially talking about bipartisanship. So students, we need you to invest and participate in our democracy because you are the ones, as adults, who are going to be entrusted to keep our democracy healthy for the good of everyone. Think you can do that? Cool. Well, I'm available for any questions, and come out and visit me in Lawrence, and we'd love to have you at the Dole Institute.
We do have one question from the audience that says, if Kansas became a state in 1861, but some cities were established before that date, how, like Junction City was established in 1877, which is after Kansas became a state. Maybe we want to talk about how, like Lawrence, do you know how old Lawrence is, the city?
The university I know was founded in the 1880s here. So after Kansas became a state. But before Kansas was officially a state, it was called a Kansas territory. So territory was not yet voted into the United States as a official state. And so back in a long, long time ago in the 1800s, a lot of the West, so Kansas, Colorado, that all the way up to California, was a lot of territories. And they didn't necessarily look like the state shapes that we have now.
But that's how it's done. All right. Well, students, thank you for joining us. And if you have more questions, I definitely encourage you to pop over and see Julie at the Dole Institute of Politics in Lawrence. Thank you, Julie, for joining us today.
You're welcome. And teachers, we also do virtual programs just like this. And then, of course, you're welcome to come out. And I'm also available to come out to your school in a free outreach program. So I travel. So just
free in our price range. I love that. And yeah, so maybe several of these students will get to have you, Julie, join them on a call, like in a Zoom call where they can be seen and ask all questions and everything. So that would be amazing. All right. Happy Kansas Day, everybody.
Happy Kansas Day.